So I'm here with WZMB. I'm Matthew Patteson. I'm here with...
Cheekface, America's local band, Cheekface. Sorry.
And you guys, what are your names?
My name's Greg.
I'm Mandy.
And I'm Echo.
All right, cool. So I guess we're just going to get right into it. So how did Cheekface originate? How did it start up?
My girlfriend, then girlfriend, now wife, Tracy, knew Mandy from the graphic design scene and was always saying, like, to me, like, oh, Mandy's super talented, you guys should, like, play together, write together, like, whatever. And we've both been in a lot of bands, so it took a while for it to happen, but then it happened, and we just were having fun doing it, so we kept going.
Yeah, I had moved to LA from New York and was just kind of wanting to not be in a band for a while, and then I decided I was unhappy and needed to be in a band again. And so
surefire path to happiness.
And I was just asking all my friends if anyone knew of, someone who would be like, interested in writing with a bass player, because it's a little specialty niche that, not everyone wants to write with a bass player. So, and Tracy was like, well, Greg, loves music and loves writing, and so you should try writing with him. And I was just like, okay. And then, it took a couple years. But then we did it, and it gelled, like, right away. Yeah.
And then after we were, like, pretty well into writing, we had, like, probably 10 or 12 songs, and we were like, oh, we should just go record all these things. Like, the first person we thought of was Echo, who I knew from the music scene.
Yeah, Greg had helped a lot of bands around LA that I was in, and I had filled in on drums for Greg's old band on a tour, a couple shows. And when Greg and Mandy sent me the first demos, I was like, oh shit.
Echo was like, I'll play drums with one hand and I'll play synths with the other hand, whatever you need me to do. He never did get around to doing the synth thing, but we'll have to talk about that in his employee review meeting.
There's still time to work that in. So where did the name Cheekface come from?
It was named after a friend's cat. It was the lone survivor after a band name shootout that we did in the studio, where we put up every name we could think of on a big dry erase board and then took turns crossing off names that we couldn't accept. And then there were just a few names left. One was Cheeks, which was the name of the cat. One was Snackface, which we then looked up, and it was like the name of a snack brand. And then one was Ryan Gosling's Huge Freaking Delts.
I like that one.
Yeah, and so...
I'm going to steal that.
So we first were like, well, it's got to be that, and it can just be Delts for short. And then we were telling people, like, people would be like, oh, yeah, you guys, how's your project going? Like, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh, yeah, we called it Delts. And people were like, what? Delts? Like, yeah, like Delta, like the muscles, and, like Ryan Gosling has huge freaking ones. And then people were like, and then we were like, okay, back to the literal drawing board. And we looked at Cheeks and Snackface, and we smashed them together. And we were kind of like, let's see if this sticks. And we've still named the band that.
But we still kind of have to go Cheekface.
Yeah.
Every time someone asks, because it's like cheeks, like the side of your face. Yeah, like the side of your face.
Yeah, like the cheeks on your face.
What does America's local band mean to y'all?
I was kind of thinking at, like, in the middle of the pandemic, middle of 2020, I was like, will there be local bands when, like, live music returns? Because it's really seemed like the internet flattened out, like, the music scene, where it was just like, there wasn't like, oh, they're a cool band from LA, or that's a cool artist from Missoula, Montana, or, that's a cool artist from North Carolina. It's just like, everything was just music from the internet, made to listen to on the internet. And I think I tweeted out at the time, like, will there be local bands in 2021? And I think we thought of ourselves as a local band, kind of like, a local band, we all kind of have an image of, like, they're cool, they're interesting, they're memorable maybe, but, like, they're not fantastic, and they're certainly not cut out to, like, make it. Like, they're just a local band, you know? But those have been some of my favorite bands. It's like the bands you see open for everybody else, and, you know, you see them like you see them 20 times a year because they're just playing on everybody else's show. And so, yeah, I just kind of tweeted that thought out, and then a lot of people responded, like, yeah, that's interesting, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, I kind of was like, you know, the internet's local band doesn't really say anything, but, like, adding America to the name of something, it makes it seem a lot more important. And so, America's local band, it was, and still is.
I think it's a really beautiful sentiment, though, especially like during 2020, because no one did really know when things were going to go back to normal.
It's a beautiful name for a girl.
So I'm a really big fan of y'all's writing style from what I've gotten to read of it. So does writing tend to come naturally to y'all, or do you have to spend more time workshopping it?
It comes pretty quickly. Greg and I kind of have this thing when we're home we don't have other Cheekface going on. We kind of like get together on the weekends and during the day and just kind of sit down and talk to each other about how our week was, and then say, well, what music have you been listening to, and share that, and then we kind of like use that as an inspiration for whatever song we're going to write that day. And we pretty much finish the song in a day, you know.
That is high output of music. I wish I could do that.
And then we just keep going. So, like, you know, a song a week until we have an album, and then we go record it.
Really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for us, writing the songs is like the most fun part. So, and then recording them is like the other most fun part. So, you know, we want to do that as much as we can and as fast as we can because it's just fun. So we want to keep doing it.
Very sweet. So, would you guys consider Cheekface to be a political band, or would you say it's just more of what you guys see going through, you know, day to day through the world as absurd as it is now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting question, and my thoughts about that have evolved as the project has gone on, because at the very beginning I felt strongly that we were a political band. We just weren't a, like, serious political band, but there's lots of non-serious good political music. I mean, you know, going back through American history, there's just tons of it. And so, yeah, I was like, yeah, we're just we're a political band. We're not a political band like Rage Against the Machine. We're a political band like Dead Kennedys, you know. And then I guess over time I've kind of like had shifting views or, you know, shifting angles on how I feel about that, or whether I feel it's still true. Because I feel like most of what we write it's kind of a collage. It's kind of a collage of life as like we experience it. And that is like a mishmash of political and social things and like internal things, and then just like the mundanities of life in the world, and all of those set against like the like high emotional points of normal life, and also the high emotional points of like political life and society. So, you know, I think like when we're writing our best, it's kind of all there on top of each other, and you know, yeah, just kind of collaged together. And a lot of times it's the juxtaposition that really puts the light on like whatever the point of the song is.
All right, sweet. Okay. So I want to get a little bit more into the new album, Middle Spoon. I know you guys have a little bit of a history of kind of randomly surprise dropping an album almost. But I know for this one, there was more of an announcement for it. I was a really big fan of this announcement, by the way, the Comic Sans Instagram story. Was there any like reason why you guys decided to announce it this time in that way specifically?
It was just getting too obvious that we were about to put out an album, and it seemed just like, I mean, we weren't prepared to do an announcement. Like we weren't like, oh, that's the date it announces, and we'll announce it in this way. But, you know, at some point you're being like too coy when like everyone knows the album's coming out and pretty much everyone knows what day it's coming out too. And then I was just like, it felt sillier to not acknowledge it. So it was just like one night I'm like laying on the couch looking at the ceiling, tapping on my phone, and I'm just like, fuck it. Yeah. Then I wrote a thing on Comic Sans on a gradient background and posted on the grid, and, you know, it was like 3 weeks before the album came out. It wasn't like, you know, 6 months before the album came out or whatever, but it seemed natural at the time.
But like for us, like this is our 5th album, so like even a random pattern turns into a pattern after a while. So we had to like, change that random pattern.
Are there any notable experiences you guys would like to speak to that that album is about, that you thought of when writing the album?
Yeah, I mean, we were all going through a lot of like personal life stuff. The last album came out, like the Middle Spoon came out this February. The previous album, it sort of came out in January of 24. And when you're working at that quick clip and touring and writing, like you don't have like a lot of time to like process life. Like life keeps happening, you just don't have that much time to think about it as it's happening. And like like literally like a week maybe after the album came out, the last album in 24, it sorted like my dad went to the hospital. He had a stroke. He was in the hospital for months. He went back for complications, was in the hospital for more months, and then like literally on the eve of like the first show in support of that album, when we touched down in the UK to start playing UK shows on tour, my grandmother died. I got a call from my mom at like 4 a.m. UK time while we were in a shitty airport motel in like London. And I really went into the process of working the album in this very dysregulated manner, and I think that like stuff about the healthcare system and things like that, like kind of and stuff about death and dying, like kind of seeped across the album lyrics in a way. And I wouldn't say it's like a death and dying album or like a hospital album or something. It's like still a Cheekface album, but I can trace those lines as they go through, and like on tour, like it's like, oh yeah, like you think about the things that happened while you sing those songs in a new space. So yeah, it's those things occurred and they impacted the writing, I would say.
Yeah, for me, I had a lot of stuff happen while we were touring It Sorted, personally, and like when we sat down to write Middle Spoon, I was in like a emotional processing mode. So it was just kind of like I went from being stunned and traumatized to needing to work through what happened. And so a lot of the times it was just kind of like a little bit more spicy, like angry than our normal Cheekface might be. And then really like finding myself again, and some a voice that isn't just I don't know, like something that's a little bit more sorry, I'm not
You're fine.
a little bit, I'm using the wrong word, but aggressive is the wrong word, but that's what I'm going for, like something that is a little bit more standing up for myself, standing up for my voice, standing
assertive.
up for assertive, aggressive. Those two things can be the same in a female's anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna give this over to Echo.
I feel like I'll keep it short, but like I had a weirdly sort of like a mirror image experience that kind of like came along like a couple of months after Greg and Mandy's year. So it's like obviously they do like the songwriting together, but like it felt like I had sort of like a sympathetic or like aligned year. So we're really keeping it on brand for this record.
All right, sweet. So first of all, I was a really big fan of the music video you guys put out for Lo-Fi.
Thank you.
What made you guys go with the music video shoot gone wrong kind of setting for that?
Yeah, I mean, it was David and Ben, Baby Pony Food, the name of the directors that did the video. They had this idea of like someone's always trying to help and it's always going wrong. And, it kind of resonated with Living Lo-Fi's lyrics of well-meaning mishap. And so, yeah, they went through a few different scenarios of, like it could happen in an airplane or it could happen in blah blah blah. And then they were, as they like finessed what the concept was, they were like, what feels natural to you guys is like you're trying to do your thing as a band, and that is where like these well-meaning mishaps occur. And so we liked the concept, and it felt like maybe even though it's kind of a meta concept, it didn't feel too twee or like self-indulgent in the way that they kind of framed it. So yeah, that's how it happened.
All right, sweet. You guys have built a pretty loyal fan base over the years. Are there any fan interactions that have left a big impression on you?
Every night we like to meet people at the merch table and say hi. And I don't know. I know a lot of people don't like to do that, and a lot of bands are like, oh, parasocial, blah, blah, blah. And I totally understand where that comes from. And some people's fans suck. But, like, our fans are cool, which is just, a lucky break. Like, the community that formed around the music is just people who are pretty cool. And even the people who want to, talk your ear off the most are still, pretty cool. So, yeah, the memorable part is honestly just making a human connection with people who come to the show and want to experience it in a human space together.
All right, sweet. How do you feel that Cheekface has changed or progressed over the span of your discography? Because I know you guys said you were 5 albums deep right now.
I would say we have gotten smarter and hotter. Not necessarily in that order.
Oh wow! Okay, I get to answer this too.
To elaborate.
I feel like we progress as people. We progress as people, and our music progresses with us, and that's just I don't know how another way of saying it. The things that go around us changes, and the things we write about change depending on what's going on around us. So.
Yeah, I've said it before, but I will say it again. I feel like the longer we do this project, the more comfortable we get with it, musically, as a trio. And it's cool, no matter what weird stuff we try, it just keeps sounding more and more like Cheekface. So
you guys just keep getting hotter and smarter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go. Great. So I know you did some time in college radio, right?
Yeah.
Would you? Is there any way that working in college radio has progressed how you work in the music industry at all, or work in bands?
Yeah, I think when I think it's kind of intuitive to what to our writing process, because when you do college radio, you're sitting there for a couple hours a week, or a couple hours a day, however often you're on the air, and you're pushing play on a record, and you want the immediate gratification of I'm pushing play, I'm hearing it, I love it, and also I know that the person on the other end of the speakers is gonna love it, and I think that feeling is kind of intuitive to what I like in a song, just from the experience of pushing play on the channel and having the song starting to play. So I think we don't ever write thinking this is a song for college radio or something like that, but it is, I think for me, a great song is the kind of song that as a DJ you want to push play on and share it with people, and also you hearing it in the studio as it plays.
And finally, I just want to do a question for all three of you guys. When you find yourself in a writing block, are there any contemporary, even classic artists you go to for influence?
It spans a lot. There's no one we go to. We don't have a go-to. Yeah. It's more of because we all listen to different music. I don't just listen to one genre. I really like to just spread it out, and depending on my mood that week or day, it's a song will hit me differently depending on my, and I think that's true for everyone, So when we write, it's more of as I said, we kind of get in the room and we're well, what song, what were you listening to this week? What was really hitting you this week, and going from there. So it's never just one or even one genre. It just goes all over. It could be classical, it could be jazz, it could be rap, rock, country, all over.
Yeah, I think when you run into a block or something, I think the best advice, at least personally, is to take a break. It's if you're in the studio, go get something to eat, or just walk away from it for a second. yeah, I find a lot of times that instead of like digging into like something else for inspiration, it's just like give your brain some time to like simmer down a little bit.
I think it's like an Oscar Wilde quote where he said something like craft steps in where inspiration fails, and a lot of times like the craft part is like, you know, oh, like I listened to this other song and one really cool thing this song has is this weird hi-hat rhythm, or this weird clash between the vocal note and the chord, or the bass line does this strange thing. And like sometimes like just picking out one very specific thing and being like, what if I just play around with that one really specific thing, like, and write a song, and its sole purpose is to like try that one weird trick, and see how it comes out. Sometimes it's like just enough to like craft it rather than wait, you know, to be hit with like the divine bolt of lightning, you know. And a lot of times when I think I'm waiting on the divine bolt of lightning, like, you know, the song that we'll end up writing is something completely not that. Like I'll write something in my lyric notes with like a bunch of stars and arrows around it and be like, that's a song, and then like, you know, we end up never being able to execute that idea because of whatever, and we write something like noodles.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for your time. This has been WZMB with Cheekface.
Hey, thank you, ZMB, for playing us.